We came to take Earth because we were dying, and we had nowhere else to go, and we were too proud to beg. That is the truth that the Galactic Council never understood when they threw up their many hands and cried that we were insane to attack the humans. They thought we were insane because we had picked a fight with a species we could not beat. They were wrong about why we were insane. We were not insane for attacking the strong. We were insane for not knowing, until it was almost too late, that the species we had come to conquer was the only one in the whole cold galaxy that would have given us what we came to take, if only we had asked. Let me tell you who I am and who we were, because every other voice that tells this story tells it from Earth's side, from the side of the victors, and they make us into villains, into mad aggressors, into a cautionary tale about the folly of attacking humanity. We were not villains. I need you to understand that before anything else. We were a dying people, and dying peoples do terrible things, and I did terrible things. And I am telling you this so that you understand both the terror of what we did and the impossible grace of what was done to us in return. My name is Vorrik, and I am Khrenn. You will not have heard of my people as we were, because we are not anymore what we were. We are something else now, something humanity made of us, and I will get to that. But before Earth, the Khrenn were a proud and ancient people from a world called Khrenn Vasa, a hard, cold world far out toward the galactic rim, and we had lived there for longer than we had records, a stubborn, enduring people who had clawed a civilization out of an unforgiving planet. We were not conquerors in our long history. We were survivors. There is a difference, though by the end the difference had worn very thin. A survivor and a conqueror look very much alike when the survivor is desperate enough, and we had become very, very desperate. I want to tell you what kind of people we were before, because it matters to understanding what we became, and because the Council never bothered to learn it before they decided we were mad. Khrenn Vasa was a brutal world, long bitter winters, thin soil, a sky that gave us little and took much, and it had shaped us into a people who endured. We did not have, in our whole long history, a single war of conquest. We had no need of one. No one wanted our hard, cold world, and we wanted no one else's, because we had learned to love the harsh place that had made us. What we had instead, in place of conquest, was a fierce devotion to our own, a culture built entirely around the survival of the people, the keeping alive of the clan through the long winters, the deep, unshakable conviction that you do not leave your own behind. That was the Khrenn virtue, the one we prized above all others. You do not abandon your people. A Khrenn who left another Khrenn to die in the winter was not a Khrenn anymore. It was the worst thing we could say of anyone. We had endured a hard world for 10,000 years by holding to that one principle, by never leaving our own behind. And I tell you this now because it is the cruelest irony of our whole story. The principle that had kept us alive for 10,000 years was the very thing that drove us to attack Earth. We could not abandon our people. Our people were dying. And so we did, for our people, the terrible thing, because the alternative was to leave them behind, and a Khrenn does not leave its people behind, not for anything, not even to stay good. I want to tell you how we came to be dying, because the dying is the whole reason for the attack, and without it you will judge us as the Council judged us. And the Council's judgment was the shallowest possible reading of the most desperate act in my people's history. Our star was failing. I will not burden you with the science of it. Our astronomers understood it long before the rest of us were willing to believe it. But the truth was simple and merciless. The star that had warmed Khrenn Vasa for all of our history was entering its death, faster than any star should, a runaway instability that would, within a generation, render our homeworld uninhabitable, and then destroy it entirely. We had perhaps 30 years' warning. For a people without the technology to easily move between the stars, 30 years is nothing. We were not a great spacefaring power. We had a handful of ships, sublight and slow, the modest fleet of a modest people who had never needed to leave their world. And our world was dying, and we had 30 years, and beyond our dying star the galaxy stretched away, full of habitable worlds, every one of them already claimed. So we did what a dying people does. We poured everything we had into the ships. For 30 years, the entire civilization of the Khrenn turned itself to a single purpose: to build a fleet that could carry our people off the dying world before the end. We stripped Khrenn Vasa of everything, every resource, every metal, every scrap of technology, and we built ships, refugee ships, great slow vessels to carry the millions of us who could be carried, and we abandoned the rest because we could not build enough, because 30 years is not enough time, and so we made the terrible triage that dying peoples make, and we filled the ships with as many as they would hold, and when our star finally convulsed and Khrenn Vasa burned, we were aboard. A few million of us, the desperate remnant of an ancient people, drifting out into a galaxy that had no place for us. I have to tell you about the triage, because it is the wound under all our other wounds, and it is the thing that made us who we came to Earth as. We could not save everyone. The ships could hold a few million, we were many more than that. And so, in the last years, my people had to do the unthinkable, the thing our whole 10,000-year culture had been built to never do. We had to choose who to leave behind. There were not enough places. There were lotteries and there were sacrifices. I watched old Khrenn give up their places to the young, walk off the ships and back down onto the dying world to make room, with a calm that still breaks me to remember. And there were families divided, and there were the ones who simply were not chosen, who stood on the burning world and watched the ships rise without them. We, who prized above all else that you do not leave your people behind, had to leave most of our people behind. It violated the deepest thing we were. And the few million of us who made it onto the ships carried that violation with us into the dark, carried the faces of the ones we had left, and it did something to us, that carrying. It made us into a people who had already broken our own deepest law once, to survive, and a people who has broken its deepest law once will break it again more easily, and will do almost anything, anything at all, to make sure that the breaking was not for nothing, that at least the ones who were saved would live. That is the people who came to Earth, not monsters, survivors who had already paid an unbearable price and could not bear for it to have been wasted. I was young then, an officer in the fleet, not a great one, a junior one, but I was there, I saw it all. I saw our world die behind us, and I saw the faces of my people in the holds of those ships, the children who would never know a sky, the old ones who had given their places to the young, the millions who were now homeless in the truest sense, a people without a world. And I want you to understand the thing that happened to us in those years of drifting, because it is the thing that made us into what came to Earth. We went looking for a home. For years we drifted from system to system, our slow sublight ships crawling between the stars, looking for an empty world, a habitable one, a place to set down our dying people and live, and we found that the galaxy was full and that no one would help us. We asked. I want to be clear about that because it matters to the shame and the grace both. In the early years we asked. We came to the edges of the great power's territory, our ragged refugee fleet, and we transmitted our plea, a dying people seeking sanctuary, seeking a world, seeking anything. And the galaxy answered us the way the galaxy answers the weak. With silence mostly, with polite refusals sometimes, with warnings to move along occasionally. The great powers had habitable worlds to spare, held in reserve, unused. And they would not give one to a dying people, because we were strangers, because we were weak, because helping us was a cost with no return, and the galaxy, we learned, does not pay costs with no return. We asked the Galactic Council itself, once, the same council that would later be so shocked at our insanity, and the council heard our plea for a world to save our people, and deliberated, and offered us nothing, because there was no profit in it and no precedent for it, and no one willing to spend anything on a dying people from the rim. I remember the refusals. I remember them more clearly than I remember almost anything, because each one was a small death, and a people can only die so many small deaths before something in it changes. I remember a great power. I will not name them, it does not matter, they were all the same in the end, who let our fleet approach, who heard our plea, and who responded not with cruelty but with a kind of bureaucratic gentleness that was somehow worse than cruelty. They were sorry, they said. They understood our situation was tragic, but they could not establish the precedent of granting territory to displaced populations. It would invite others. It was not feasible. They wished us well. They wished us well. A few million dying people, drifting in slow ships, told by the comfortable that our extinction was regrettable but not their concern, and that they wished us well. I remember our fleet mother, the closest thing we had to a leader, an old Khrenn named Sessivore who had given up her own place on the ships and been given it back by acclaim because we could not lose her. I remember her receiving that refusal and going very quiet and saying to those of us on the command deck, "They have worlds to spare." They showed us the surveys themselves to prove they had considered it. Empty worlds, good worlds. And they would rather watch us die than give us one because giving costs something and watching costs nothing. She was quiet a long time, then she said, "Remember this. Whatever we become, remember that we asked. Remember that we asked and they wished us well and let us die." And something broke in us, over those years of asking and being refused. I felt it break in myself, and I felt it break in my people. The asking had been a humiliation, a long, slow humiliation. The dying come hat in hand to the comfortable and turned away again and again, and there is only so much of that a proud, ancient people can bear before the asking curdles into something else. By the time we had been refused for the 10th year, the 11th, the 12th, our pride had hardened into something terrible. We stopped asking. We decided in the bitter councils of our drifting fleet that the galaxy would not give us a world, and so we would take one. We had a fleet, not a war fleet, but we could make it one. We could arm our refugee ships. We could become, out of pure desperation, the thing we had never been, conquerors. We would find a habitable world held by a people weak enough to take it from, and we would take it, and we would not ask, because asking had only ever brought us humiliation, and a dying people will choose almost any death over one more humiliation. I want to be honest about the bitterness, because it is the engine of everything we did, and because the humans later understood it when no one else did. We did not turn to conquest because we were evil. We turned to conquest because we had been taught over 12 years by every comfortable power in the galaxy a single brutal lesson, that asking does not work, that the weak who ask are refused, that the galaxy gives nothing to need and everything to strength. The galaxy had taught us that lesson, deliberately, refusal by refusal, and we had finally learned it. If you want a world, do not ask. Take. The great powers who later recoiled in horror at our aggression had made our aggression, had schooled us in it across 12 years of wishing us well and letting us die, and then were shocked, when the dying people they had refused finally stopped asking and started taking. We were their student. The conquest they were so appalled by was a lesson they had taught us themselves. We found Earth. It was, by our reckoning, perfect. A habitable world, beautifully habitable, a green and blue jewel that our exhausted people wept to see on the scopes after so many years of dead systems. And it was held, our intelligence said, by a young, minor species. Humans. We knew little of them. They were new to the galaxy, not one of the great powers, not heavily defended as far as our limited information suggested, a single homeworld and a scattering of colonies. Exactly the kind of weak holder of a rich world that our desperate calculus had been searching for. A world we could take. A world that could save our people. We did not know then what humans were. We did not know what the galaxy had begun to whisper about them. We knew only that they held a world we could live on and that they appeared weak enough to take it from, and that our people were dying, and that we were done asking. I was on the command deck when we made the decision. Older now, a senior officer, one of the voices in the bitter council that chose Earth. And I want to confess the thing I felt when we chose it, because it is the truth, and the truth is the only thing that gives this story weight. I did not feel doubt. That is my shame. I looked at the green and blue world on the scopes, the world where a young species lived its ordinary life, raised its children, knew nothing of the dying fleet about to fall upon it, and I did not feel doubt, because 12 years of refusal had burned the doubt out of me. I felt only a hard, cold determination, and underneath it, a kind of terrible relief. Relief that the asking was over, that we would not be humiliated again, that we would finally do the thing that strength does and take what we needed. I had become, in those 12 years, exactly what the galaxy had taught me to become. I looked at a world full of innocent people, and I saw a resource my people needed, and I felt no pity, because pity had been refused to me so many times that I had stopped believing it existed. Old Sesavor, our fleet mother, gave the order, and her voice was heavy with it. She, at least, still felt the weight, still remembered the asking. But she gave it because she would not leave her people to die, and the order was given, and our fleet turned toward Earth. I tell you this so you understand. We came to Earth as the villains of this story. Truly. I will not soften it. We came to take the home of a people who had done nothing to us, to seize their world and displace or destroy them, because we were desperate and the galaxy had made us hard. The humans did not deserve what we came to do to them. If the story ended with our destruction, it would be a just ending, and I would have no right to complain of it. That is the thing that makes what actually happened so impossible to bear, and so impossible to forget. We were the villains. We deserved the just ending, and the humans gave us a different one. And so the Khrenn fleet, the ragged refugee fleet of a dying ancient people, armed in desperation, carrying the last few million of us, set its course for Earth, to take by force the home that no one would give us. I was aboard. I was an officer, older now, hardened now, a part of the terrible decision. I told myself it was necessary. I told myself the humans were strangers and we were dying, and that the survival of my people outweighed the world of some minor species we had never met. I told myself the things you tell yourself when you are about to do a terrible thing out of desperation. And the Galactic Council, watching our fleet move toward Earth, threw up its hands in shock and cried that we were insane, and they were right, but not for the reason they thought. They thought we were insane to attack the humans because the humans were strong and we would be destroyed. And we very nearly were. The defense of Earth was real, and it was terrible, and I will tell you about it because it is part of the truth. But the Council's shock missed the deeper madness entirely. The deeper madness was this. We had spent 12 years being refused a world by every cold power in the galaxy, and we had finally, in our desperation, chosen to take a world by force. And of all the worlds in all the galaxy, we had chosen the one world, the one species, that would have given us a home if we had only asked. We did not attack the strong and pay for it. We attacked the kind and were saved by it. That is the real story. That is the thing the Council, in all its shock, never understood, and the thing I have spent the rest of my life, the rest of my people's new life, trying to make the galaxy understand. Let me tell you what happened when the dying Khrenn came to take the Earth. Let me tell you about the battle, and the defense, and the moment our attack failed and our fleet lay broken and helpless above the world we had come to conquer, waiting for the annihilation that every law of the galaxy said we had earned. And let me tell you what the humans did instead, the thing that made the Galactic Council ask a different question entirely, a question they have never stopped asking, which was not, are the Khrenn insane? But are the humans? The first thing the humans did, when our fleet arrived at the edge of their system, was try to talk to us. I did not understand it at the time. I understand it now, and the understanding is one of the heaviest things I carry. We came in fast and hard, the way a conqueror comes, or the way a dying people pretending to be a conqueror comes, which looks the same from the outside and feels very different from the inside. Our fleet are armed refugee ships, swept into the Earth system on an attack vector, weapons hot, and we expected to be met by the desperate, scrambling defense of a minor species caught by surprise. Instead, before we had crossed half the distance to their world, the humans hailed us. A transmission in the clear, calm and clear, and our translators rendered it onto the command deck, and the human voice said, "Unknown fleet, this is Earth Defense Command. You're on an attack profile and we'd really rather you weren't. Talk to us. Whatever you need, whatever's brought you here on a war footing, talk to us first. We're listening. There's almost nothing that can't be solved better with words than with what you're flying toward right now. Please respond." An old Sesivore, our fleet mother, looked at the transmission, and for a moment, I saw it for a moment, something in her wavered. Because the human voice was not the voice of a frightened minor species. It was calm and it was open and it was offering before a shot was fired to talk, to listen, to find another way. And 12 years of refusal had taught us that no one offers to talk to the weak, that no one listens to the dying, and here was a voice before the battle offering exactly that. For one moment I saw the doubt come back into our fleet mother's face, the question, what if these ones are different? What if we ask and these ones say yes? And then she crushed it. I watched her crush it and I understand why, and it is the great tragedy of our whole story. Because we had asked for 12 years and been refused, and the asking had nearly destroyed us, had broken our pride and our hope both. And the part of Sesivore that had been broken by 12 years of "we wish you well" could not, would not, risk being broken one more time. To respond to the human offer to talk, to ask, it would mean opening ourselves again to the humiliation that had nearly killed us, gambling our last hope on the mercy of strangers, and we had learned, the galaxy had taught us, that strangers have no mercy for the weak. Sesivore could not bear to ask and be refused one more time. It was easier, it felt safer to people that broken, to take, to attack, to never again put our survival in the hands of someone who might say no. And so she did not respond. She gave the order to press the attack. We did not talk to the humans. We had been refused so many times that we had become unable to accept the one offer that would have saved us without a single death. That is what 12 years of the galaxy's cruelty had done to us. It had made us unable to recognize kindness even when it hailed us in the clear and begged us to talk. So we attacked, and I will tell you about the defense of Earth because it is part of the truth and because the Council's shock, are they insane to attack the humans, was, in the narrow military sense, entirely justified. The humans were not weak. Our intelligence had been wrong, or rather, it had been right about the surface and wrong about everything underneath. Earth was not heavily defended in the way a great power's throne world is defended, with vast fleets and fortress moons. It was defended in a different way, a human way, a way we had no framework for. The humans had built their homeworld's defense not as a wall but as a web, layered, distributed, redundant, clever in ways that our straightforward refugee fleet turned war fleet could not match. And more than that, they fought the way I would later learn humans always fight, which is to say they fought for their home with an intensity that had nothing of calculation in it and everything of love. We had come to take their world. And they defended it the way you defend the thing you love most in the universe, which is to say without limit, without hesitation, with a ferocity that our weary, desperate fleet, for all its weapons, could not stand against. I will not give you the long account of the battle. I was in it. I do not like to remember it, and the details are not the point. The point is that we lost. We lost quickly, and we lost badly, and we lost in a way that made the Council's shock look like prophecy. Our armed refugee ships, never built for war, crewed by a people exhausted by 12 years of drifting, threw themselves against the defense of Earth and broke against it. Ship after ship of our fleet was crippled or destroyed. The humans fought with a discipline and a fury and a sheer competence that we had not imagined, and within hours, our attack had failed utterly, and our fleet, the last few million of the Khrenn, lay broken and scattered above the world we had come to conquer, ships dead in space, weapons gone, drives failing, helpless. And we waited to die. I want you to understand the completeness of our helplessness and the completeness of our certainty about what came next. Our fleet was broken. We had no defense left, no weapons, no ability to flee. We hung above Earth, the failed conquerors, the dying people who had come to take a world and been shattered in the attempt, entirely at the mercy of the humans we had just tried to destroy. And we knew every law of the galaxy, every lesson of our 12 years, every instinct of our hard history told us that there was no mercy coming. We had attacked their homeworld. We had come to take it, to displace them, to kill them if we had to. By any reckoning the galaxy understood, we had earned annihilation, and we expected it, and we waited for it. Sesavor, our fleet mother, broken in body now, her command ship dying around her, opened a channel to the fleet, what was left of it, and she did the only thing a Khrenn leader could do at the end. She spoke to her people to let them hear her voice as the end came. She said, "My people, I am sorry. I led us to this, and it was wrong, and I am sorry. We came to take because we could not bear to ask, and we have failed, and now we will pay. Hold to each other. We do not leave our own, not even at the end. Whatever comes, we face it together. I love you. I am sorry. I love you." And we waited the last few million of the Khrenn, broken above the world we had attacked, for the humans to finish us. The humans hailed us instead. The same calm, clear voice, Earth Defense Command, and I braced for the terms of our surrender, for the demand of unconditional submission, for whatever cruelty the victors would name. And the human voice said, "Khrenn fleet, your attack has failed. Your ships are crippled. We can see that your drives are dying and your life support is failing on a lot of your hulls, and that you have a very large number of non-combatants aboard. We're reading children, we're reading your elderly, we're reading whole populations in those ships. So before anyone says anything else, I need to ask you one question, and I need you to answer it honestly, because the answer changes everything." A pause. "Those aren't warships, are they? Not really. They're refugee ships. You didn't come here as a war fleet. You came here as a people with nowhere to go, didn't you?" And on the command deck of our dying flagship, old Sesavor began to weep, because the human had seen it. In the wreckage of our fleet, in the readings of our dying ships, the human had seen the thing that 12 years of the galaxy had refused to see, that we were not conquerors, that we were refugees with guns, that under the attack, under the aggression, under the terrible thing we had done, we were a dying people who had nowhere to go. And Sesavor, weeping, answered. She told the truth, all of it, the truth we had been too proud and too broken to speak for 12 years. She told the human voice about Khrenn Vasa and the dying star, about the 30 years of building ships, about the triage and the ones we left behind, about the 12 years of asking and being refused, about how the asking had broken us until we could only take, about how we had come to Earth to seize a home because no one would give us one, and we could not bear to ask again. She told them everything. The full confession of a broken people, spoken at last to the one voice in the galaxy that had asked the right question. And there was a long silence on the channel. And then the human voice came back, and it was different now. Not the calm voice of a defense command, but something rougher, something moved. The voice of a person who has just understood that the enemy they defeated was not an enemy at all, but a tragedy with a weapon. And the human said, "Okay, okay, thank you for telling me the truth. I'm going to tell you something now, and I need you to really hear it, because I don't think anyone said it to you in a long time." A pause. "You don't have to take a world. We have room. Earth has room, and we have colonies with room, and there are worlds in our space that are empty and good and waiting. You came here to fight us for a home. You didn't have to. You never had to. All you ever had to do was ask, and the asking and being refused that broke you, that was them, not us. That was never going to be us. So I'm going to ask you the question they should have asked you 12 years ago, the question the whole galaxy owed you and never paid." And the human voice, the voice of the world we had just tried to conquer, said the thing that broke 12 years of bitterness in a single sentence. "Do your people need a home? Because if you do, welcome. We've got one. Stand down and let us help you home. Welcome, we've got one." I cannot describe to you what those words did to our broken fleet. I cannot describe what it is to spend 12 years being refused, to break your own deepest law and become a thing you hate in order to survive, to attack an innocent world out of pure desperation, to fail, to lie broken and helpless and certain of annihilation above the home you tried to steal. And then to hear the people you attacked, the people who had every right to destroy you, say welcome. We've got room. Let us help you home. It was not possible. In the whole framework of the galaxy that had taught us, it was not a thing that could happen. The strong destroy the defeated. The comfortable refuse the dying. That was the law, the iron law, written into 12 years of our suffering. And the humans broke it, casually, completely, as if it had never been a law at all, as if the obvious thing to do with a defeated enemy who turned out to be a dying refugee was simply to take them in. But it was not over, because there was more to it than our fleet and the humans. There was the Galactic Council, watching all of this, the council that had refused us 12 years before, the council that had cried out in shock that we were insane to attack the humans. And when the council saw what the humans were about to do, saw them not destroy the defeated Khrenn but offer them a home, offer them welcome, take in the very people who had just tried to conquer their world, the council's shock turned into a different shock entirely, and the question they had been asking changed. And what the council said next, and what humanity said back to them, is the last part of this story. Let me tell you what happened when the galaxy that had refused us watched the humans take us in, and asked, in genuine bewilderment, whether the humans had lost their minds. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session while our broken fleet still hung above Earth, and the transcript of that session is a public document now, and I have read it more times than I can count, because it contains the exact moment the galaxy's understanding of itself began to change. And the change started with the Council asking, in total sincerity, whether humanity had gone mad. You have to understand the Council's position because their bewilderment was genuine, and it was not, by their lights, unreasonable. They had watched a fleet attack Earth. They had watched the attack fail. And now they were watching the victors, the humans, whose world had just been assaulted, prepare not to destroy the defeated aggressors but to take them in, to grant them sanctuary, to give the Khrenn the very thing the Khrenn had come to seize by force. To the Council, this was incomprehensible. It violated every principle by which the galaxy operated. You destroy those who attack you, not out of cruelty, but out of necessity, because mercy to an aggressor invites the next aggressor, because a power that takes in the enemies who assault it teaches every other potential enemy that assaulting it carries no cost. The Council's logic was the iron logic of deterrence, the same logic that ran every great power in the galaxy. The defeated aggressor must be made an example, or your defenses mean nothing. And here were the humans, about to do the opposite, about to reward an attack with sanctuary, and the Council genuinely believed it was watching humanity commit a catastrophic error. The Council hailed Earth. I have the words. The Council's speaker, one of the great powers, one of the very voices that had refused us 12 years before, addressed humanity, and the address was almost frantic with bewilderment, and it said, Earth, we have observed the Khrenn assault on your world and your successful defense, for which the Council commends you. But we now observe that you intend to grant the attackers sanctuary rather than destroy them. We must ask you to reconsider. These beings attacked your homeworld. They came to seize your world and displace your people. To reward such an act with sanctuary is to invite every desperate power in the galaxy to do the same, to teach the galaxy that attacking Earth carries no consequence, that aggression is rewarded. It is strategically suicidal. It defies all reason. Earth, are you insane? Explain yourselves. Are you insane? The same words the Council had aimed at us, now aimed at the humans. And I want you to feel the irony of it, because I have felt it every day since. The Council, which had refused a dying people a home for 12 years and called it reason, was now calling humanity insane for offering that home, and could not begin to see, that its own 12 years of reason were the thing that had created the attack it was so shocked by. The Council looked at humanity's mercy and saw madness. It could not have looked at its own past refusals and seen the same. And humanity answered. The human speaker. I learned later it was the same person who had hailed our fleet, an Earth defense official named Commander Ana Diaz, though by the end of that day she was speaking for all of humanity, answered the Council. And her answer is carved now in the founding hall of what my people have become, and I will give it to you as close to whole as I can, because it is the thing that changed the galaxy. She said, "You're asking if we're insane for taking them in. I want to answer that seriously because I don't think you're asking in bad faith. I think you genuinely can't understand why we do this. So let me explain it, and then you can decide for yourselves who's actually being insane here." A pause. You say taking them in rewards their attack and invites more attacks. You're thinking about deterrence, about making an example, about teaching the galaxy that attacking us has a cost. And I understand that logic. It's the logic the whole galaxy runs on, and it's why the whole galaxy is the cold, frightened place it is. But here's what that logic misses, and it misses it every single time. These people didn't attack us because they're aggressors. We talked to them. We know their story now. They attacked us because they're dying, and because for 12 years every power in this galaxy, including the powers on this council, including you, refused to give them a home, and refused them so many times that they stopped being able to ask. You didn't deter their aggression. You created it. You taught a peaceful, dying people that asking gets you nothing and taking is the only way, and then you're shocked when they finally learned the lesson you spent 12 years teaching them. The Khrenn aren't a warning about the danger of mercy. They're a warning about the danger of refusing it. The Council had no answer, and Commander Diaz went on, and this was the part that broke the old galaxy open. She said, "You want to know why we're taking them in instead of destroying them? It's simple. We looked at their fleet and we didn't see an enemy. We saw refugees with guns. We saw a dying people who'd been refused so many times they came to take by force what no one would give them by kindness. And the thing about that is, the moment you understand it, you can't unsee it. Destroying them wouldn't have been justice. It would have been the galaxy doing to them, one final time, the exact thing that broke them, refusing them and calling the refusal reason. We're not going to be the 13th refusal. We're going to be the first yes. Because the truth, the thing your whole cold galaxy has forgotten, is that almost no one is born an enemy. People become enemies. Desperate people, refused people, people with nowhere to go and no one to ask. You can make an enemy out of almost anyone if you refuse them long enough. And you can unmake one too, faster than you'd ever believe, with the one thing none of you were willing to spend. A home and a welcome and the simple words "you don't have to take it, we'll give it." That's not insane. That's just the only thing that's ever actually ended a cycle of violence instead of feeding it. You break the cycle by being the one who finally says yes. A pause. You think we're weak for taking in the people who attacked us. We're not weak. We beat them, you saw us beat them. We could destroy them right now, and no one would lift a finger to stop us, and the whole galaxy would nod and call it just. We're choosing not to. And choosing mercy from a position where you could choose annihilation, and everyone would applaud the annihilation. That's not weakness. That's the strongest thing there is. It's just a kind of strength your galaxy stopped believing in so long ago you've forgotten it exists. And the Council was silent. And in that silence, something shifted in the galaxy. I felt it even from the deck of my broken ship, the sense of a very old and very cold assumption cracking. Because humanity had said the unsayable thing, the thing that the whole iron logic of the galaxy existed to keep no one from saying. That the cycle of aggression and annihilation, the deterrence and the examples and the cold, reasonable destruction of the defeated, was not wisdom and never had been. That it was, in fact, the engine of the very violence it claimed to prevent. That refusing the desperate creates the aggressors, and destroying the aggressors teaches the next desperate people that there is no mercy and so no reason not to attack, round and round, forever. the galaxy feeding the cycle it thought it was containing. And humanity had simply stepped out of the cycle, had looked at a defeated enemy and chosen to see a person, and chosen welcome over the example, and in doing so had done the one thing the cold logic insisted was impossible: ended the threat, completely and permanently, not by destroying it but by curing it. Because that is what happened. That is the proof, the thing the Council could not argue with in the years that followed. Humanity took us in. They did not garrison us or punish us or hold our attack over us. They settled the Khrenn, the last few million of us, the dying broken people who had come to take their world, on good empty worlds in human space, and they helped us build, and they treated us from the first day not as defeated enemies but as new neighbors, as a people who had finally come home. And the Khrenn who had attacked Earth out of 12 years of bitterness and desperation became, I will say it plainly because it is the truth and it astonishes me still, humanity's most devoted allies in the entire galaxy, not out of obligation, out of love. You cannot imagine the loyalty of a people who were dying, who were refused by everyone, who became villains out of desperation, who attacked the innocent and failed and waited to be annihilated, and were given instead a home and a welcome and a second chance at being good. There is no bond in the galaxy stronger than that. The humans had made, out of the people who came to destroy them, the fiercest friends they would ever have, simply by refusing to do the reasonable thing, the iron thing, the thing the whole galaxy expected. And the Council learned. Slowly, the way the proud always learn, but they learned, because the proof was undeniable, that humanity's insane mercy had not invited more attacks but had ended one permanently and gained a devoted ally in the bargain, while the Council's 12 years of reasonable refusal had created the attack in the first place. The galaxy began, here and there, to ask the human question instead of the Council question. To look at a desperate people and ask not, how do we deter them, but what do they need? To wonder whether the cold logic of deterrence and annihilation, the logic that had run the galaxy for so long, was not wisdom at all but a kind of long, slow madness that manufactured the very enemies it then destroyed. It was not a revolution, but it was a beginning. The humans had introduced into the galaxy a single dangerous idea, that mercy to the defeated is not weakness, but the only thing that ever truly ends a war, and the idea did not leave. I am Khrenn. I came to Earth to take it. I would have killed humans if the battle had gone differently. I had hardened myself to it. I was, when I arrived, as much a villain as my people had ever produced. And I live now on a good green world in human space, and my children. I have children now, children who have a sky, the thing I thought my people would never have again. My children are growing up in a home that was given to us freely by the very people we tried to destroy. I have spent the rest of my life trying to understand the size of that gift, and I have never managed it because it is too large. The humans looked at the worst thing my people ever did, the attack born of our deepest desperation, and they saw past it to the desperation itself, and they answered the desperation instead of the attack, and in doing so they saved us, not just our lives, but our souls, the goodness in us that 12 years of refusal had nearly burned away. They gave us back the ability to be the people we had been before the dying, the people who do not leave their own behind. They reminded us that we were that, underneath, by being it themselves toward us, when we least deserved it. The Galactic Council was shocked. They're attacking Earth. Are they insane? That is how the story begins, and it is true. We were insane in a way, mad with grief and desperation and 12 years of being refused. But that was never the real question. The real question, the one the Council asked next in genuine bewilderment, watching humanity take in the people who had attacked them, was, are the humans insane? And the answer to that question is the thing I have given my new life, my saved life, my second life, to telling the galaxy. No, the humans were not insane. The humans were the only sane ones in a galaxy that had gone mad so slowly, over so many thousands of years of cold, reasonable cruelty, that it had forgotten its own madness and called it wisdom. The humans looked at a dying enemy and did the one thing that the whole galaxy had decided was impossible, and it turned out not only to be possible, but to be the only thing that ever actually worked. And in doing it, they did not just save my people. They showed a frightened galaxy the way out of the cycle it had been trapped in since before any of us were born. We came to take a home by force, because no one would give us one. They gave us one, and we never had to take anything again. That is the whole story. And if you ever wonder why the Khrenn, who once attacked Earth, would now die for it without a moment's hesitation, it is because the humans taught us the thing our hard galaxy had made us forget, that the strongest thing in the universe is not the power to destroy your enemies. It is the power to make them family instead.